All right, it is 5 p.m. and you are at the City of Wausau Plan Commission. First order of business. It looks like we have everyone with us except for Commissioner Ross, who will be joining us virtually in a bit. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the November 17th, 2020 and December 1st, 2020 meetings. Do I have a motion? A motion by Bolkin. Do I have a second? Second by Peckham. Any discussion? I'm not seeing any. I guess I'll go through the roll call since we have some virtual folks. Lindman.
Aye.
Peckham.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Bolkin.
Aye.
Brugman.
Aye.
Rosenberg. Aye. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Second order of business is our public hearing. Tonight I'm going to open up the public hearing for discussion and possible action on rezoning of 200 South 17th Avenue and 200 South 18th Avenue from a suburban mixed-use zoning district to a planned unit development zoning district, and approve the general development plan to allow for indoor storage and for future retail and office space. I guess first up I would allow the petitioner to give a little presentation on what this is, or a little discussion. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill Schofield, 500 North 3rd Street here in Wausau. I want to thank the staff. We've had several meetings and get together to discuss our future there. Real quick history on the Crossroads County Market site. It's been owned by the Lindell family for over 40 years. They were Wausau people. They had their kids graduate from Wausau West. He was a grocer, owned Hal's, if those of you who are older and remember Hal's and so on, but owned many grocery stores in the region. They have basically, for the life of the Shopko building, been the owners of the Shopko building. It was built by Shopko and stuff, but the building wasn't owned by Shopko. And so when the bankruptcy happened, we were already starting to market and look at the property, look at redevelopment issues. I had worked with Abbey Bank when 18th Avenue, 17th Avenue was being rebuilt. Some people are upset still that Annie's is gone and so on, but it was the start of what was a master plan that we've been working on for that area. It's intended as a long-term hold for the family. The second generation, Peter Lindell, is the primary, is taking care. They're actually watching tonight, one from Utah and one from Wyoming. At this stage, we would just like to take and utilize the existing building. The problem with the existing building, as we went out to the marketplace, is it is built in a fashion that the large general retailers, it's not large enough for a Costco. It's doesn't fit the realm for the Targets and so on. For those of you who remember the Trader Joe's banner that got put on the building and caused me, and the former mayor calls me at 6:30 in the morning and says, "Why didn't you tell me?" So it's a very high exposure location. We had hoped to put TJ Maxx and several other players in it. They're into a mode where if they grow or bring some of their other brands to town, they're really directed toward the retailing area. I call it nesting in our industry. They like to nest together. So we've looked at the structure of the building. For many of you don't know, there's a mezzanine of 23,000 square feet, or a second floor in that building. It goes through the front. Most retailers like walking into the building with a high ceiling right away, not a low ceiling, if you recall walking into that building. We've worked hard to reshape the strip center that has Cost Cutters and H&R Block in it. We are the actual landowners and lease the Holiday Station. Obviously, the county market has just a few years ago signed a new 30-year extension on their lease. The Shopko building being empty, a strip of land that was south of 18th Avenue, and remember, we're in a unique situation. We have 18th Avenue that goes north-south, and we also have 18th Avenue that goes east-west. Working with the city, we were able to shift the east to west, 18th Avenue to the north, which opened up what we call our Phase 3 site, which if you look at the master plan is a building that has been going back and forth. With COVID, we've had all our tenant potential prospects go to hold right now until we get through this season, the winter season and stuff. We hope to have them back. If I may come back to, and I will come back to the Shopko building, its configuration is much too deep, much too wide for most of the retailing that would be shopping our area again. It's 350 some feet of frontage and 200 and some deep. Most retailers are in 120, the bigger, what we call mid-boxes and so on. So aside from the retail issue, it's what do you do with the building? Do you scrape it? Do you not scrape it? We commissioned several studies. The studies came through that indoor climate-controlled storage, which has become an extremely sought-after business in major metros or urban areas, is in high demand. The feasibility studies, 2 of them completed, said that this market you could use up to 200,000 square feet of indoor climate-controlled storage. We can do most of our work on this site within the zoning, the new SMU zoning, except that storage is only in your industrial zoning. We are not talking about the typical garage door stuff. This is all within the building, high security, obviously warm, dry, out of the weather. Cars can pull in, truck could pull in, so on and so forth. So we're here today to talk about the overall plan, adding green space, adding future buildings, of which we have potential tenants who have talked to us on all 3 of the outbuildings, as well as on the major building. But we can certainly infill the rest of the building. It's L-shaped if you look at the design, and that's because the retail area, and I'll speak to the retail area, up until a week or 2 ago, we were a candidate for a large clinic, which will be announced at some point in time here. I'll probably get in trouble because I signed a non-disclosure, but it's the VA has been looking for a new clinic in the area. We weren't able to put that deal together. We have flipped back to the retail, which was always being marketed. But as we looked at those configurations, the storage business just became an absolute way to not have to tear the building down, to utilize the mezzanine, and to advance. So our primary here today is to say we have an excellent plan, we have potential leads for it. Our first next step, I like that, is to ask for the zoning change and the acceptance of this general development plan. I'm here to answer any questions. I've been kind of all over the place, just trying to say that we've worked hard on the retail end. The retailers have told us what they want or what they don't want. We've worked on the design of the buildings. We have excellent outbuildings. We've worked with the city talking about walkability, green space requirements. The owners have always maintained this property. The main Shopko lot was rebuilt in 2018. We've worked hard on green space issues, putting attractive buildings up, making sure we refaced what is a 1960s metal building where King Buffet and Shopko Optical is now. And we hope to keep advancing what is a primary location in the city of Wausau.
Thank you. Brad, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add on this. I know you had a staff memo. Make sure we hit everything.
Sure. Do you want to take that now or after the public hearing? I guess it doesn't matter to me. Either one.
I'm fine either way. All right, so.
Okay. Maybe do the public hearing?
All right.
Okay.
Public hearing is open, so anybody that's interested in commenting on this project at South 17th and South 18th Avenue can approach the podium. I will call for a second time. Public hearing is open. Feel free to approach the podium and talk to us about this project at 200 South 17th Avenue and 200 South 18th Avenue. All right, last time for your opportunity to talk about this project at the public hearing. All right, public hearing is closed. Brad, take it away.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I think Bill covered it pretty well. And what we're here today to look at is the general plan of the PUD, Planned Unit Development. And what's in the packet displayed on the screen is the site plan. There's other information in the packet as well, but I think we'll start looking at this one. I guess with the general plan, what we're really looking for are the uses that are going to be on the site. And when we talk about the site, I guess we're talking specifically about the Shopko property, both the building itself and the parking lot. There's other uses around there, like the strip center to the south at 18th Avenue, but that's really on a separate parcel and not necessarily part of this zoning request. But again, when we look at the general plan, we're looking at the different types of uses that are being proposed, the layout of the buildings on the site, and the overall intensity of the uses, the density, and the location of the buildings. So that's what we have in the packets. I think what they've submitted, constitutes what normally would be a general development plan. The staff report in the packet talks about the criteria that we use to, evaluate a PUD. And in some cases, that applies more to the specific plans than to the general plan. But there are some things that we can take a look at this stage. I guess, one of the main things is the uses. Again, the storage that was mentioned isn't technically allowed in the underlying zoning district. It's not really addressed. This type of storage arguably is different than what we normally refer to as, personal storage or, small-scale wholesaling. This is, again, indoor climate controlled. It's not really specifically addressed in the zoning code, so the PUD would allow this type of use to occur there. So I guess, at this point, we are, looking for more information, the next step to determine, some of the aspects of the approval. But again, that will be worked on. Presuming that this general plan does move forward, we'll come back with more details and specifics on some of those criteria in the ordinance.
All right, maybe before we start asking questions of this body, I would entertain a motion on this. Motion by Peckham. And I have a second by Bulkin, and that is to accept this general development plan to allow for indoor storage and furniture retail. Any discussion here? Alder Peckham.
You can count on me, Mayor.
Always.
I like the fact that we're going to, within an amount of time, see something other than a giant asphalt slab out there. And the plantings and landscaping are appreciated. I also like the fact that the storage facility does not dominate the front of the facade of that building. And I'm wondering about if Mr. Schofield could explain what the uses are for indoor climate-controlled storage. I'm not really familiar with that, and I'm wondering whether there would be intended access for the users of that space from the north side, or if it would all be from those big doors in the front. There is a kind of a alleyway or roadway thing on the north side, and it looks like that's just going to be solid wall, but I'm just wondering.
Let me get into the business itself. We're not into boat storage or car storages or stuff. It's for personal property, usually furniture and those things that are affected. It could be paper files if a business needs to file, like the old attorney's offices and so on. Most of them are digitizing and so on, but it's more for personal storage of household items and so on, where it's not fuel tanks and lawnmowers and so on. The baseline is that they're generally stuff that's affected by temperature swings or and convenience. It's very high security. You can punch in and drive your car into it at certain hours and be able to unload. I can answer, but we know that also professionals use it, pharmaceutical salespeople, because of the high security end, they can store stock and so on. So it's all contained inside. We don't, most of the operations, and they've been growing immensely throughout the larger urban areas. This area was picked because of the big increase in apartments in the area where people are downsizing, don't really want to get rid of their furniture, not sure what they're doing. It's not just the younger crowd, but it's this, our age who are stepping into moving out of a home. So that's the base business. As far as access, primary access is through the illustration that is shown in the front. Those are just 2 garage doors. What's not shown there, but in the site plan, is cars can back up under the canopy, unload, go through a sliding, 4-foot sliding doors. There are carts provided. There's an elevator inside and so on for the lighter storage upstairs. There is a plan that has shown another unloading area for the larger trucks, 26-foot U-Haul trucks and so on, along the north wall. Right now there is two full lanes plus full parking depth along that side. So it's considerable in size. I'm not sure if we're talking 40, 50 feet there?
It's sizable, I don't remember the exact.
Of driveway that's in place, and we own up as we go up the hill toward the old hotel. So at this stage, there is a concept to put a door for unloading and a canopy on that side, but it's certainly not a primary and so on, and we would deal with that in the precise implementation plan. So
There would be 2 stories of storage in that part of the building.
correct. The mezzanine level, which if the clinic had gone ahead, required us to remove it. So I actually added it back onto our data to Brad last week, because we would have been removing that, which is $500,000, because it's that built that well. It has offices and meeting rooms and employee areas. We'd be gutting that, but that runs in an L across the 300 and some feet of the frontage and then along the entire north wall. So the 2 stories is that area, if you will. The south wall does not have it, and the west wall does not have the mezzanine. So the 2 stories are there. For your knowledge, the illustration is not showing anything that's real. That's all inside. That is a fake facade that shows garage doors on the second floor. If you go into any of the cities, Madison or elsewhere right now, you'll see that there are multi-story, but a lot of them are using that more as an effective marketing tool than a function at this stage, because again, it'll all be inside. You want to keep your containment envelope as weather sealed as possible, and windows cause condensation and other problems.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Do you see anyone online? I'm sorry. Okay, I guess we are ready to vote. Did you, Michaela, join us yet? Oh, there she is. I just want to note that Michaela's with us now, so I will be asking for her input too. All right, Lindman.
Aye.
Just so everyone knows, we're voting on accepting the general development plan for this project. Peckham.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Bolkin. Brueggemann.
Aye.
Ross. Rosenberg, aye. Thank you very much. We will see you back with the precise plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action on approving a conditional use at 620 McClellan Street to allow for an institutional residential use in a 2-flat residential zoning district. I don't know if we want to update anyone on the project anymore. I think we're all pretty clear on this one.
Let me just, a second, I'll grab this.
We're gonna give Brad a chance to pull it up for us. I don't know, do you want to?
Yeah, I think
Do you want
that's
to give us a little spiel?
Sure, thanks. So this is the second and final step in the conditional use process. You recall, we did hold a public hearing last month to look for any findings, additional findings. I guess the staff recommendation was that, based on the report of preliminary findings, that we would recommend approval of the conditional use. There are some suggested conditions in the report that I'd like to call your attention to, if I can.
Please do.
Bring those up here as I fix my mask. Fix this. All right, so I guess staff recommends, again, the approval of the conditional use with the conditions, that this does apply to a licensed healthcare social services provider and shall not be transferred to other institutional residential uses. So that means if there is a different use for the building, that would need to come back to Plan Commission, just to make sure that it would still fall under the approved use, as was approved this time, potentially. A second condition is the maximum number of residents shall be 8 or 2 per bedroom for the 4 bedrooms that are in there. And lastly, as talked about last time, regarding a buffer yard, this could be ordered by the Plan Commission if it is found that this may be necessary to help protect the neighbors, in case, there are some issues that could potentially arise. I think, all of these conditions should be agreeable, hopefully, to the petitioners. I think they're mainly what we had talked about previously. It just provides some added protection and clarity to the commission, just in case things do change down the line. So we would recommend that we adopt these conditions as part of the approval.
Okay, I guess I would entertain a motion before we get started talking.
Neil moves to approve.
Motion by Neil, do I have a second? Second by Peckham. All right, is there any discussion on this? Alder Peckham.
Just wondered if somebody could explain that third condition about the buffer yard. Is that just to make it clear that we reserve the right to revisit this if privacy does become an issue? And would the action be taken by the Planning Commission, or are we delegating that to the zoning administrator if it is perceived to be a problem?
Well, I guess to answer your last question, that would be up to you. I guess we could do it either way, whatever your preference is. If you trust the zoning administrator to make that decision, we'd certainly do that. He may want to bring it back to the commission if there is any question about it, or you could, if you really wanted to have control over that, you could reserve that for this body if you'd like. I guess we do have standards in our ordinance that we could follow to meet this requirement for staff to approve it.
Yes, spoken.
My question concerns the buffer yard also. I'm questioning the need for it or our control of it. I think it should be left up to the people managing the property. And I say that because I don't think that the group that's going to be using the house should be singled out as to putting a barrier up. The whole purpose of the house is to have people in society and bring them back in and have them enter programs and get back to regular life rather than fencing something off. And, I mean, I'm not sure about these, this block, but I think there's a couple of group homes along this block too, aren't there? I mean, I don't,
It is within a certain footprint, which is
Yeah.
why we are being asked to rezone here.
okay. But I think we should remove that and leave that up to the decision of the program managers.
Okay, so I guess I'm wondering, if we approve as is, we still have in there that it may be ordered, and you're suggesting that we remove that completely.
Yes, I would.
Okay. So,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
would it, because the conditional use permit transfers with the property and isn't used for specific, for this, correct me if I'm wrong, it would carry on even after if the use of the property would change, it stays tied to the property. So even if the use were to change, then these conditions would still be tied to this property. Is that the case?
Well, I mean, if the property, the conditional use isn't bound to the owner specifically, but it is bound to the use. So as long as that use continues, then the conditional use is good. But if the use changes, I think that's what we were trying to clarify in that first one. If a different program comes in there, it's not for, I don't know, it's for some other population that they want to serve. I mean, we'd have to weigh, I guess, as staff, is that a different use or does that fall under the same use? If it's the same use, then it continues. But if it's a different type of use, then that would require a separate approval.
Okay.
okay. So we have a couple of discussion points here. We have a motion to accept as is. We have a thought that maybe we want to remove that or strike that last recommendation condition. Is there yes, Alder Peckham?
I just had a quick comment. I appreciate the sentiment behind the suggestion to get rid of the buffer yard, but the way I took that was there are going to be 8 people in there, and there are probably going to be more people out in the yard, using that space than would be normal if there was a family of 4 or 5 in there or something like that. So I took that as just kind of a measure to safeguard if there's just a lot of, activity in the backyard just because of the number of people. So I would be comfortable either way, and like to hear what other commissioners have to say, I guess.
Sure. The floor is open. Yes, Vulcan.
In this block, I mean, I see big parking areas in the back. I mean, so those are either rentals or group homes, aren't they? I mean, are there single-family homes along through there?
Yes, we have Mr. Holster here who could maybe address that question, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I don't want to get in the middle of this because it's not, we're just renting the property. But we're the ones that put the concrete parking behind. We actually own the 3 buildings to the east. We own a couple of the properties across the street, and we also own the property across the alley. So if there are problems, we're going to be the first ones to hear about it from our tenants. And we've got a good relationship with the police department, and I'm assuming with the healthcare center. And we will address it because we've got to keep our tenants happy in the places next door as well as make this workable. So, I mean, I'm fine either way. We've worked pretty well with the inspections department. So, whatever works for you guys is fine with us. We're going to make it work. So.
Thank you.
And the 2 places directly to the east, by the way, are both 3 triplexes, 3-unit residential properties. The property to the west, I believe, is still a boarding house. It was, and I think it still is, but we don't own that one, and there shouldn't be any issues on that side anyway, so,
Thank you.
okay?
Tom
Yes.
Neal here.
Yes, Alder Neal.
Yeah, I had heard an interesting comment in a recent meeting where somebody said, let's not solve a problem before there's a problem to solve. Why not just, if something arises, we'll deal with it at that time.
So do you think we're comfortable with leaving this recommended condition in as may be ordered, and it would
I
come,
am.
come back to the
I am.
plan commission if that arises?
I'm comfortable.
I don't know if I need a formal vote on this condition. I mean, I would, if you were asking to amend it and you had a second, we could vote on that specific piece. Or if you were willing to accept as is, we could vote on that.
Well, I would accept it. My concern is for the residents of the home. I don't think they should be singled out to have barriers put around them because of the program they're participating in. I mean, it seems that with triplexes and such, I mean, there are plenty of residents in each house. I mean, probably, a minimum of 3, maybe a maximum of 8 or 10 in some of the others. So
Sure.
it's just a numbers thing to me. It's like, why, and they're not going to be doing any activities that need to be obscured from the public.
Sure. So I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Neil again. I meant to say that I was good with the idea of not having a barrier.
Okay, do I have, maybe if somebody could formulate that in amendment, we could amend it and vote on that, if that's where we're at?
I would move to amend the motion to include the first 2 conditions,
All right,
but drop the last condition, especially after hearing from Mr. Holster, about his interest in keeping all of his people happy. I think that's, and I do appreciate Mr. Wilkins'
Yep.
thinking on the reasoning. So-
all right, so we have a motion to drop that third condition. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Neil. Is there any discussion on this amendment, or can we vote on the amendment? All right, Lindman,
Aye.
Peckham. Neil,
Aye.
Bolkin.
Aye.
Brookman,
Aye.
Ross. And Rosenberg, aye. All right, the amendment passes, and now we are here with the, on the approval of the conditional use, without the potential buffer yard. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, I'm not seeing any, so I'm gonna go ahead and call for this vote. Lindman,
Aye.
Peckham. Neil,
Aye.
Bolkin.
Aye.
Brugman,
Aye.
Ross. And Rosenberg, aye. This passes unanimously, amended. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in this. It's good for our community.
It is.
All righty. Next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action on landmarking of 500 North 4th Avenue. That is Grant School. I'm going to toss it over to Brad Lenz again for a report on this and what we're actually voting on.
All right, thank you. All right, so this is Grant School, as noted. And I guess the process for landmarking a local property starts with our Historic Preservation Commission. And they have previously held a public hearing and recommended that the landmarking of Grant School move forward. And the process moving forward is for it to come here to Plan Commission and then on to City Council for their final recommendation. The Plan Commission has criteria which are noted in the staff report. They're slightly different than those at the Historic Preservation Commission. I guess the ones for us to determine are listed. There's 3 of them, and they have to do with development of the city. Will the landmarking affect the city's plans, the neighboring properties, and overall promote the general health, safety, and welfare of the public? And on that last point, it's noted in the staff report that, historic preservation is part of the public welfare. So you could argue that, promoting landmarks does speak to that and does promote the general welfare. So I guess based on those 3 conditions, for the Plan Commission, staff would feel that those would be met in this case. and I guess would recommend approval. Again, this is based on the Historic Preservation's findings that this is a historically significant building. It's not just that it's old, but it is, has value, historic value, and should be preserved. So I guess, again, the next step would be to move it to the city council for their final review.
Okay, I see that we have Bob Tess on from the school district. I want to give you an opportunity if you have anything you'd like to say.
Sure, thank you. We did participate in Historic Preservation Committee hearing, and we made it pretty clear that night that we're interested in learning and listening to what the Plan Commission and the city has to say about this move to make Grant a historically designated building. We're certainly not standing in the way. The referendum is behind us. I don't want to speak for our board, but we have learned a lot from the community over the last month, and we're learning more and more that there's very little, if no appetite, for any referendum that would include raising Grant Elementary School. Again, I don't want to speak for our board. Our board still has about a month to decide if they want to go to referendum in April, and they've been having that discussion. They continued the discussion last night even. And again, without speaking for them, I'm not seeing appetite in the community for raising Grant to be replaced. So that's where we stand. We're eager to learn what the next step is and how the owners of the building, the school board that would need to get involved.
Thank you very much. I see we have a couple of members of the Historic Preservation Committee here. I don't know if there is anything you'd like to share or if you feel confident in what we've already seen and provided. I'd welcome
Or
you.
questions, if anybody has any questions of me, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you.
Good evening, I am Christine Martins with at 1228 Arthur Street in Wausau. I am a member of the Historic Preservation Commission as well as Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks, which is a group here in town that looks out for historic buildings in the area. I wanted to just again explain that we are absolutely positive that Grant School marks all the boxes for landmark status, and we hope that you will agree with us. I noticed that Brad did include in the packet all the information I have sent up till now, so I won't go over that again. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have 3 great resources back here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess at this point, if this body feels good about having a discussion, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Neil to landmark 500 North 4th Avenue, which is Grant School. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a second by Ross. All right, is there any discussion or questions? Yes, Mr. Bolkin.
My question is, I mean, I feel that landmarking this property may be a little premature since the school district doesn't really know what its plans are for this property. And if we landmark it, it's going to cause restrictions as to any demolition or refurbishing. And I just think it would be better to wait unless, I mean, and it doesn't sound like the school board's ready to produce any plans for that right now. So I would suggest waiting on the landmarking until something's in place, and then everybody can go forward with that.
Thank you. Is there more, does anyone else want to talk?
Yeah, I agree with Member Bolkin on this. I think it might be premature at this point in time.
Okay, so we have a couple people thinking we should wait on this. I don't know if there's any.
What would the process be subsequent to this action if it were to pass?
The action would be, the Plan Commission sends a recommendation to the city council, so at their next regular meeting, we generally, would wait until the first meeting in January, not next week's meeting, but January would be the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Is there a need to go to the next council meeting, or can it be delayed to, let's say, 2 months out?
I would have to check our ordinance. I don't have it in front of me. I think there are some timelines that it marches things along, that it needs to go to the next meeting. Like, if we're going to delay it, I'm not sure. I might have to.
Or it could be tabled at council for later consideration.
Yeah, I think something should be sent to council at this point. And then what council does with it is probably the better place to.
This body probably, I mean, you could table it for until a time certain, if that was something, if there's more information you wanted, information from the school board. Alder Peckham, looks like you want to say something.
I just wanted to give Mr. Gisselman an opportunity to talk to us about timeline and whether he sees there would be a problem. I'm in no great rush to do this. It seemed to me that the historic preservation people wanted to, out of courtesy to the school districts as much as anything, get this thing through so there was some clarity as to its availability, I guess. But perhaps Mr. Gisselman could talk to us about the need to do it now or to let it dangle. If you would, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gisselman, for joining us.
I'm Gary Gisselman, 319 Park Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin. Just reaffirming what Brett, just a couple points. It is a historically significant building in this city. It was, it came mostly as a result of the historical consultant's report that was conducted last year. So, I mean, this Preservation Commission was starting to look at the historically significant buildings within the city. Of course, when the school board took out, the referendum came to be, I think that I wasn't on the Preservation Commission at that time, but it just sort of became in front of the public that this was indeed a significant part, and the Preservation Commission was acting, their timeline brought it, this far, even past the referendum. Public hearing, 40 days, so several months later, it's here in front of the Plan Commission, and part of that is as a result of the Preservation Commission. I mean, it is significant. I'm not sure what will change between now and then. The safeguards that, if indeed it becomes a landmark, then the safeguards are in place with regard to the ordinance of the city of Wausau. So there are steps that the Preservation Commission can take, and the owners that can take. So I think it really doesn't make any difference at this point in time or later, because I think the significant part is that the city council indeed does landmark it as a significant building, a structure within the city. I mean, everything is lining up. Like Christine Martin said, everything is lining up for a very significant structure in the city. We have it verified again by our historical consultant, 110 years old. You have all that information in front of you. I would think that whatever happens in the future, there is some safeguards put in by the ordinance on the city side, whatever the school board decides to do with it. But I think that this is the way we've gone so far. I don't know if Brad wants to add anything further to that, but he sees the timeline, I think. But I think we have an historically significant building that I feel needs to be landmarked in the city, and I would think that and I would hope that Plan Commission would take that step today. Thank you.
Thanks. I guess I did dig up the actual ordinance regarding the process, and it is laid out pretty detailed. I have it up on the screen. It does talk about the process for the historic preservation shall make a recommendation to the Plan Commission within 30 days. Plan Commission needs to then forward their recommendation to the city council. I think that's also within 30 days. So, I mean, there are timelines in there that are shalls, they're not shoulds. So I think it doesn't really lend itself well to,
Waiting.
I think it's intentionally built that way because, as was mentioned, there are long timelines on the front end. There's there's a minimum 40 days that we have to wait to notify the property owners. Everything's pretty well laid out. So we have an obligation to the property owners to kind of, make a decision one way or the other on this thing. So I'd recommend sending something to council, whatever that may be.
Okay. Is there-
Neil here.
Yes, Alder Neal.
I just want to say that, the determination by, the people in position to make a determination is that there is historical significance to this structure. And, in 30 days or 60 days or whatever, I don't think its historical significance is going to diminish. It's going to stay the same. So I stand by support for this measure.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or any more discussion here?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I had a couple.
Commissioner Ross, go ahead.
I would be in favor of us to go ahead and work on this and get it going. Looks like a lot of attention and detail and meetings have already been put into establishing it as a historical preservation project. I noticed that they also said in their meeting that there may be possible tax breaks if the school added to the national register, for example. See any reason why we won't want to move forward with it, especially since they mentioned that there might be a time. I kind of think if we go ahead and do this, that it may open it up to them being able to plan to do with the property. Just a thought.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any commentary? All right, I am not seeing.
Mayor?
Oh, yes.
Madam Mayor, it appears Bob Tess had some comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't
Thank you.
see everybody here. Yes, Mr. Tess.
Real quickly, tax benefits don't really interest us because we collect taxes, we don't pay them. But well noted. There are two schools of thought here. By the city taking action, if I'm thinking like a school board member, and I'm not, because I can't speak for the school board, I can think of one of two different ways. Thank you, city, for helping us make our decision. It maybe made our decision easier. Or they might want to make their decision independent of what the city does, and in which case waiting might help, and then you would need to trust that the school board is going to make a decision consistent with what the planning commission's thinking right now, which I believe they will do. So there are two different ways of thinking of it. Yes, you might make that decision easier by the school board because it'll be one more data point that is saying to the school board, we don't want to tear down Grant. I think we have enough of those data points already that the second school of thought, if you're going to let the school board make an independent decision, we have enough data points lined up to already fall in place to not raise Grant. So I can see either one of those, and it's your decision, but I don't think this will affect the school board much in their decision.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's already done.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right, I think we are ready to vote. Lindman,
Aye.
Peckham. Neal,
All right.
Bulkin. Brugman,
No.
Ross. And Rosenberg, aye. This passes with 2 no votes. Thank you very much. We'll see that at the city council on the 12th of January. Next meeting date and future agenda items for
I
consideration.
think we got
Oh.
Fulton Street.
Oh, just kidding. I crossed that one off instead. All right, we're moving on to item number 5, discussion and possible action on dedication right-of-way of Fulton Street extended.
I can take that.
Yes, Mr. Lindman can take that for us.
So this is the area down at River Life where we extended the Fulton Street towards the river. And so that was city-owned property. We built that. This is just the dedication of the proper area for right-of-way along that street.
Okay. Guess I would entertain a motion. A motion by Bulkin, second by Peckham.
Second.
Any discussion here? I'm not seeing anybody. So I guess we're ready to vote. Lindman,
Aye.
Peckham. Neal,
Aye.
Bulkin,
Aye.
Brueggemann,
Aye.
Ross. And Rosenberg, aye. That motion passes, and I can cross it off officially. Next meeting date and future agenda items for consideration, it looks like it's the 19th. So
Yes.
if you have anything, let Brad know, or I guess you can let me know, if you like to live dangerously. Next item on our agenda, we have an article for your interest about America is aging and seniors will suffer disproportionately in a world built for driving around. I don't know if we have any.
Yeah, I guess just encourage everyone to read it. You know, as planners, we like to think about the impacts of how we develop, how developers propose their projects. You know, a lot of times developers and other decision makers are looking at, you know, how's the majority going to be affected with the development. Most people drive cars, but not everyone does. It's noted in the article about a third of people don't drive cars. Either they're, you know, too young or too old, or they can't drive for various reasons, or some choose not to. So I guess there's a school of thought that, you know, we should be looking at the most vulnerable populations and designing for them, because everyone else will probably be okay if we still do that. So, you know, it's a good article, and I encourage everyone to read it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bulkin.
I find myself reading more articles concerning seniors these days. And I thought this was very interesting in talking about crosswalk times. And maybe, you know, when we look at senior communities or even apartment complexes, such as the one that's going up on Sturgeon-Eddy and Grand, you know, things being built off of the main street and having more access to the smaller streets and such, because I don't walk as fast as I used to. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. I like these articles. I think they're great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else with a commentary? All right, I would take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Bulkin, second by Peckham. Anyone opposed? Nope. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.